I am the champion now. You know, I can do a Bane voice while having this thing on. I was born with the championship, molded by it. You adopted the championship for yourself. Okay. So, that little interlude of mine was basically my way of telling you guys I love wrestling a lot. So, how do I get this started? Basically, this is one of the reasons why I do so much WWE 2K15 Smart Way Out stuff on the channel, which, by the way, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. It's just a stream highlight series, and I enjoy the crap out of it, so that's why I do it. But the one reason I wanted to do this video is basically to talk about my history with wrestling. And you guys were curious about it, and since everyone's talking about E3 and whatnot, I felt like I might as well do something a little different, you know what I mean? And also, it's perfect that I'm wearing a Finn Balor shirt and whatnot. Finn Balor's from NXT, he's one of their developmental superstars, and he's fucking amazing. Go look him up. I wanted to talk about wrestling and my history with wrestling, and it all starts back when I was younger at a sleepover at my cousin's house. Now, me and my cousin were pretty close back in the day, and he was really into wrestling. I was more on the cartoon side until this one night when we're hanging out, and I think, if I'm correct, the match was Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels. And I don't remember the pay-per-view. I think it was WrestleMania. But what happened was basically history for me. Like, it absolutely rocked my world that this dude who had a take no prisoners, fuck you attitude basically beat the company's champion. And from that moment on, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. From that point on, I really got into WWE. This was around the time of what was considered the Attitude Era of wrestling, and basically what that meant was it was for late teenagers to adults. It was like, this was about the same kind of programming when, like, this was going on, South Park was going on. Specifically, my favorite wrestlers from the time consists of D-Generation X, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, of course with the Mr. Sacco thing where he pulled Mr. Sacco out of his pants and fucking shoved it in the dude's face. The Hardy Boys, that's always a classic for me. When it came to the Hardy Boys, those were probably two of my favorite wrestlers because of the fact that they were pretty much daredevils. They had a trilogy of tables, ladders, and chairs matches which defined the type of match that was, where basically they would jump off of ladders into tables on their opponents. Easily my favorite moment in all of wrestling history is when Jeff Hardy's trying to grab the tag team titles, and he's hanging there, and Edge off the ladder spears him, like, to the ground. And this is, like, I want to say 10 feet off the ground, maybe? Like, if you look at it, it's horrifying to watch, to see him go flying down, but at the same time, it's one of the most, like, admirable things you could ever witness. One of the major other highlights that I do love about wrestling was the Monday Night Wars. And during the Monday Night Wars, it was basically a battle for ratings. And what would go down is basically, it was WCW versus WWE. And occasionally, when the buyout happened where WWE bought WCW, WCW superstars would come on to WWE and crash the show. It was basically an all-out battle for ratings, and it was probably one of the most, like, game-changing angles in wrestling history. So much so, I actually, when I was a kid, I saved up all of my money and bought a wrestling belt, and I still hang on to this very day. When the Attitude Era ended, I kind of faded away from wrestling. I was like, It was like about the time when, like, John Cena started getting super popular, you know what I mean? Like, he was around that time where, like, the Hardy Boys were gone, they had gone to TNA, WCW was obviously in the shitter. It was at that point where basically I was like, I don't really have a attachment to this, there's no wrestlers that I really love. And then I watched a recent WrestleMania that just happened, which probably had one of the better main events, and trust me, when I say better main events, this was fantastic. If you don't know, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the championship. He kicked the ever-loving shit out of Roman Reigns, and then Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, stole the title, and I literally knew nothing about wrestling at this point, but at that time I was absolutely hooked to that. It brought me back in. And I fucking love wrestling a lot now. And then I started looking at other promotions, current promotions going on. I looked at PWG, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all of these companies that have existed, but you have to like search for them. Back in the day when I was younger, there was no internet. It was basically just word of mouth, and all I knew of were basically the three. There was WCW, WWE, and ECW. And ECW was like the most hardcore you could ever witness. Now I learned that there's a company called CZW, which is pretty garbage, but it does basically what ECW tried to do. But my current favorite wrestling promotion ever has to be NXT right now. And NXT is basically WWE's developmental program. Basically, it's a developmental program, basically kind of training the wrestlers. That's really it. But they perform a show every week or so, I think. And they have probably some of the best talent you will ever witness in your life. I could probably name some of my favorites. Let's see, I've got Sami Zayn, Hideo Itami, Finn Balor, represent the Divas division, Bayley's good, Sasha Banks, and then of course, we got Samoa Joe coming from TNA to NXT, and of course my favorite of all time, Kevin Owens. Oh my god, Kevin Owens is fucking amazing. If you don't know Kevin Owens, formerly known as Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor, easily one of the best and fastest rising stars I've ever seen in the company. And he basically is cold and calculating, but at the same time, he speaks the truth about everything. Recently, he had a rivalry with John Cena, and he fucking cleaned house. He's still going with him. Basically, they're doing a trilogy of matches. Owens won one, Cena won one, and now they're doing one more at Battleground, I think is the new one. I think it's Battleground. But they have basically, no matter how you look at it, Kevin Owens in the company, his stock is going up and there's no stopping it. Next to like Stone Cold Steve Austin or the Hardy Boys, he is my instant favorite for how he's portrayed in the company. He's fucking fantastic. And even back as a kid thinking about it, I had all of the wrestling games. Like, if you saw me as a young kid or like a teenager, there were two types of games I owned. One, it was the Tony Hawk games, which, by the way, I pre-ordered Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 and we're playing the shit out of that. And two, the WWE games. I had every single one. I had all of the N64 ones, No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. I had the SmackDown vs. Raw games. I had just WWE in general. And then I stopped up to the point where, like, they started going on the PlayStation. That's where I kind of stopped. And then a moderator of mine, Bamit's Loki, since they know a lot about the jokes and stuff, like the John Cena jokes we have, decided to pick up WWE 2K15 for me. And we just decided to simulate some matches on a stream one night, and it was pure magic. And we love doing that because the game is so broken, but at the same time, it kind of ignites that love of wrestling and just talking about wrestling, and it's fantastic. So, not to say that I don't want you guys to pick up the game. If you want to, wait for 2K16, see if you'll like it. But if you're interested, you can stop by the stream when we do our Smart Way Out things and just have some fun. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this weird little vlog of mine talking about wrestling and whatnot. I am going to SummerSlam in 2 months. That's going to be fun. If any of you guys are going, let me know. I'm going to probably vlog it, but we're going to have a fun time, me and my friends, just watching people beat the crap out of each other. Hopefully you enjoyed this weird little vlog of mine. I like talking about wrestling, so it's nice to like let you guys know what I'm really into when I'm not recording video game stuff. And this is it. Anyway, this is Smarty, signing off. Have a good one, guys.